Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is The Way. This will be my full Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 4 video. There were a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. And careful for spoilers if you have not seen the episode yet. We'll just start at the beginning, work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs, WTF moments. There were a lot of big reveals. Even though it was a relatively short episode, it was very short, probably one of the shortest this season. They actually tease some really huge stuff, confirming a lot of theories that people have had since the very beginning of the series. Like the fact that Grogu will become a Mandalorian and wear a full set of Beskar armor. Tiny little Beskar armor. That was probably one of the earliest theories that fans had when Grogu debuted on the series, when we were still calling him Baby Yoda, before they'd revealed what his name was. Like, wouldn't it be cool if he walked around with a tiny little set of Mandalorian armor? And turns out that they plan on doing that. This is truly the way. The actual episode title is The Foundling, which is a reference to a bunch of different ideas and characters during the episode, mostly to Grogu himself. Mando himself was also a foundling. Also, there's the child, played by Jimmy Kimmel's nephew that we saw in episode 1, who is also a foundling. In fact, one of the only people I think that are part of the covert here, the Armor's covert, that isn't a foundling or didn't start out as a foundling was Bo-Katan, because she was born into the royal family of Mandalore. The whole idea is that foundlings, like Mando when he was a little kid, are people who are rescued by their covert and taken in. That's the whole basis for how Grogu can become a Mandalorian, because most of them aren't born into the Mandalorian culture. They take the creed and become Mandalorians that way. Mando himself was not born a Mandalorian. There are also some references to Mando's childhood later in the episode too, even though during this episode, the only flashbacks that we get, the only new flashbacks are Grogu Order 66 flashbacks, also confirming one of the longest running theories, who saved Grogu, and it is a huge cameo scene, which I will talk about in a second.
Misa called Jar Jar Binks. Misa, your humble servant.
That won't be necessary.
The actual opening scene starts on the Armor's planet with the Mandalorians doing their regular fight training. All the foundlings, pretty much everybody is training, but the focus is on the foundlings training, all the youngest Mandalorians, like all the children wearing Beskar armor you see running around fighting each other. You see the older ones kind of watching over them, giving them advice, like Bo-Katan is walking around watching them. You see Mando walking around watching them, particularly watching Grogu. Bo-Katan gives Grogu a little pep talk because he's near the shore playing with rocks. It looks like he's moving them around with the Force, like that's meant to be a bit of a joke, because then you find out that they're actually a bunch of crustaceans that he was trying to eat for lunch. No, we're not training, we're just looking for a little snack, just a little bit hungry. But if you look at the scene here before Mando comes to get him, you notice that all the little crustaceans that look like rocks, that are disguised to look like rocks, are moving in a circle around him. That's because they're all slowly trying to move away from him. Then Mando comes and puts him into training, just confirming that he is going to become a Mandalorian, which the armor reinforces later in a much more literal way, saying that he has to train like all the other foundlings, also revealing a little bit about how the ranks within their covert work. After foundling, it sounds like they become sort of trainee, and they get put into one of the other subgroups, like they have different groups that go on different types of missions that have different skills, until you rise to the rank of someone like Mando or someone like Bo-Katan, someone with more skills who wields more authority within their group. Even though Bo-Katan just joined their group, because of her skills, because of her past, she has a much higher rank than a lot of the other younger ones. Mando also calls Grogu his ward. Like, there's a lot of terminology, a lot of vernacular that they use that we haven't got yet. That slowly slips out when you get episodes that are heavy with the Armor's group. He makes Grogu face that new foundling played by Jimmy Kimmel's nephew, who we find out is Paz Vizsla's son. His name is Ragnar. You wonder who his mother is, like who's the Mandalorian female that's part of their covert that's his wife. They allow the contestants to choose which weapon they use. They choose darts, which are the whistling birds that you saw Mando using during Season 1 and Season 2. When Ragnar complains why Grogu doesn't have to wear a helmet like the rest of them, Mando explains that until he's old enough to actually physically speak the creed, he's not old enough to wear a helmet. And I know a lot of people are theorizing that during Episode 3, Grogu actually spoke "This is the way" when Bo-Katan and Mando kind of turned quietly to look at him like, wait a minute, did he just say "This is the way"?
This is the way.
This is the way.
So many people asked Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni about this, like, when will Grogu actually talk like Yoda talked? And they said, well, maybe he's already talking, but he's just speaking in a way that we can't understand. Maybe that's just Yoda's species' native language. But that also kind of puts a clock on Grogu actually wearing a Mandalorian helmet, paying off all the fan art from way back in Season 1. Like, when are we going to see him wear a helmet? When he actually physically speaks the words that they can understand, "This is the way," and speaks the creed. We'll see how many seasons that winds up being. I'm not expecting that to happen this season. Like, he just got another plate of armor at the end of the episode. It's probably going to be a good long while before we hear him speaking lines of Shakespeare. But the whole setup here, the whole joke, the payoff, is that the other kid winds up underestimating Grogu. Like, I have to fight this little kid here. Obviously, he has never seen a member of Yoda's species, doesn't know anything about Yoda. He's making fun of one of the most powerful creatures in the entire galaxy. Pretty much every member of their race is born incredibly powerful in the Force, even if not all of them train the same way or for the same length of time.
Then he's too young to fight.
Judge me by my size, do you? And where you should not. For my ally is the Force. And a powerful ally it is.
So both Mando, Bo-Katan, and the others who know Grogu and have seen him are trying to hold back their laughter briefly. Everybody pull up a chair, we'll see Grogu wipe the floor with this kid. Maybe the lesson is for you. The other funny thing here too is that we've been making jokes about how Bo-Katan is slowly becoming Grogu's space mom, making him treats, treating him like a mom with the care that a mom would treat their child with. Space mom and space dad helping their kid learn to train like a Mandalorian. She gives him a little pep talk saying that her father was the exact same way with her when she was training. And he jumps around through the air flipping using the Force like he did when he was training with Luke Skywalker, like Yoda did, dodging his darts and hitting him multiple times. When Mando says he didn't teach him that trick, he's talking about Luke Skywalker. He learned at the Jedi Academy. It was also hilarious watching them try to strap the darts onto his tiny little arm, like just barely big enough to hold those darts. I also think this is set up for later this season when he'll be wearing more darts, more Mandalorian armor and weapons like that. Just little handy things that he can use in battle that you wouldn't be expecting normally. I'm sure eventually his pod will also be equipped with a bunch of weapons like that too, for defense mostly. Like the pod is huge, the pod could hold a ton of extra weapons. Then the new foundling Ragnar gets snatched by the winged creature from this planet. They don't say what the creature is called. Everyone runs out of jetpack fuel, but Bo-Katan is able to find the lair with her Mandalorian fighter, and they form a rescue party. The whole idea here is that the episode is also meant to show how Bo-Katan is integrating with their group, trying to genuinely be helpful and just follow their customs. Like, she asked Mando for help, like, how are we supposed to do things this way? Like, how do you eat with your helmet on? All these things are meant to show how she's trying to become part of their group. Like, she's not secretly planning on taking them over or doing anything bad or evil or anything like that. Even though they are setting up the idea that eventually they'll have some disagreements, especially at the end of the episode when the armorer doesn't believe that she actually saw a mythosaur. But that's just more set up for a big payoff with a live-action mythosaur showing up later. Oh, you didn't believe me. Remember the time you told Mando that he wouldn't be able to redeem himself and he proved you wrong? Well, I'm going to prove you wrong again. Let's go check out that mythosaur. When she mentions the peaks of Kirimura, she's talking about an area in the northern hemisphere of the Mandalore planet where the Mandalorians built a fortress and she trained when she was initially joining their forces. Even though she didn't train as a foundling, like she wasn't joining the Watch group or anything like that, she was part of the royal family, they all went through standard military fight training like all Mandalorians would. Also, the fact she's talking about these peaks of Mandalore is a common area that they all would know. Like, it's a common reference, like, oh yeah, we were talking about this place on Mandalore the planet. And like I said, she wasn't a foundling like Grogu is a foundling just because that's what they call members of their group that they take in. She wasn't taken in by anyone, she just went through training regularly, but it's meant to be a parallel between her time training and Grogu's time training. So she was kind of like a foundling, like they treated her kind of like a foundling. Here's another big Easter egg for Mando's backstory in his childhood too when he was rescued by their covert. When the armorer tells Paz Vizsla to grab the Shriek-Hawk group and take them with them, that's meant to be one of the subgroups within their covert. They have a number of different teams, like I said, with different specialties just based on whatever their mission is. The name Shriek-Hawk comes from a predatory bird native to Mandalore, and the symbol of the Shriek-Hawk are those 3 claw marks featured during Clone Wars and The Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 3, because the symbol of the Shriek-Hawk was later adopted by the Death Watch Mandalorians. That was Pre Vizsla's group. Maybe that's Paz Vizsla's father. They haven't explained Pre Vizsla and Paz Vizsla's relationship. And those were the Mandalorians, the Death Watch Mandalorians, who rescued Mando during the Clone Wars we saw in that Episode 8 flashback in Season 1, meaning it was also probably the Shriek-Hawk team that rescued him. And maybe the Death Watch Mandalorians were just a part of the Watch group because that's what they call their entire covert, like the Armor's group is called the Watch. Maybe the Death Watch Mandalorians were just a group that Pre Vizsla broke off with at some point during the Clone Wars. But when he was saved by those Mandalorians with the Shriek-Hawk symbol, the Death Watch Mandalorians, that's when he became a foundling like Grogu. We get a really cool scene of the armor with Grogu. I was actually waiting for this to happen at some point during the season. Like, wouldn't it be funny if the armor had to babysit Grogu for a little while? She doesn't treat him quite the same way that Bo-Katan does. Like, Bo-Katan's tone with him is a little more motherly. The armor speaks to him a little bit more like the leader of their group would speak to someone. I think the idea there is they just wanted to feel like Bo-Katan will develop her own motherly relationship with Grogu the same way that Mando developed a fatherly relationship with Grogu. Whereas the armorer will just treat him like another member of their group. But I love the way she tells him, you're too young to go, but not forever. Like, eventually you will go on missions with them, teasing that that will happen maybe later this season. And when she says there's many things that you have to learn, customs, she also confirms a lot of our long-running theories that Grogu will become a Mandalorian eventually, saying that there's lots that you have to learn, and you will if you want to become a Mandalorian as you plan to become a Mandalorian, like Grogu plans on becoming one. The big confirmation here is the theory way back in Season 1 is the idea the title of the series, The Mandalorian, referred to Grogu even more than it referred to Mando himself, because the whole idea that you're not born a Mandalorian, you take the creed and you become one, like you're taken in as a foundling, you take the creed and you become a Mandalorian. And that's basically what Grogu does during this episode. It's just that he hasn't physically spoken the actual creed yet. She teaches him about Mandalorian culture and history, the importance of the Forge, calling it the center of their culture. Remember, the Forge, like the giant forge underneath the planet Mandalore, underneath the city, Sundari, is meant to be the center of the city itself. It was the most important place in the city. She uses the forging of Beskar as a metaphor for them forging themselves, refining themselves through trials and adversity, all while she's making him a new piece of armor. And with all the rhythmic pounding of her forge, Grogu has another PTSD flashback. The minute he had that sad look on his face, you sensed that he was getting ready to have a flashback. And he begins to remember the rest of what happened during Order 66 and how he was saved, who the Jedi was, answering the other biggest long-running theory in question that fans have had since Season 1, who saved Grogu? And we find out that it was a Jedi named Kelleran who winds up being a huge surprise cameo, and it is a big cameo scene. If you didn't recognize him, this is Ahmed Best, who most people remember as Jar Jar Binks from Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. He was also featured during the Clone Wars too. The Kelleran character he started playing for the Jedi Temple Challenge TV show. They created the character for that special TV show, and now they're just bringing that character to the regular live-action series. Misa saved young Grogu. There's also another quick cameo scene from Temuera Morrison providing the voiceover for the clone troopers executing Order 66, trying to kill them as they escape. They give Ahmed Best a really cool dual-wielding green light-blue lightsaber to take them down. It doesn't feel like a complete redemption of the Jar Jar Binks character in general, but it does feel like a big win, like a huge W for Ahmed Best. That dude definitely deserves some wins, the way that his character had been treated for so long by fans. You also may have noticed this in last week's episode too, but there's more wide shots of Coruscant, like you see Order 66 going down, the Jedi Temple is burning. Some of the wide shots of Coruscant here are reused shots from Revenge of the Sith, and some of it's brand new special effects. You also notice that Grogu is in the same pod that Mando found him in, just a little less worse for wear, meaning that he had the same pod for many years. They crashed through the same plaza that we saw them visit in present day during Episode 3. This is Monument Plaza, that's the name of the place. It's also featured during the Clone Wars episodes and is based on original Ralph McQuarrie concept art. They even crash right past the tip of the mountain we just saw last week. But you have to remember that this is all happening during Revenge of the Sith many years earlier in the timeline. Then when they reach the escape craft, you also probably recognize this too. It's a Naboo cruiser. These are Naboo troops. This is meant to be the same type of ship that Padme had during Phantom Menace. So the idea here is that the Naboo, in a combination with the Jedi that survived Order 66, this Kelleran character that Ahmed Best is playing, helped Grogu hide in the Outer Rim, or they were part of the people that helped him hide in the Outer Rim. During the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, they talk about this underground Jedi railroad across the galaxy that helped a bunch of people escape the Empire after Order 66. That's also probably where Grogu went after this. They also tease Quinlan Vos was critical in helping a lot of these Jedi who survived the Purge escape through this underground railroad. Maybe we'll see some of them in future episodes. The armorer then explains to Grogu more of their ways. The adults donate a portion of their earnings from mercenary or bounty hunting work to the foundlings, which is how they get their first sets of armor, with her giving Grogu his next piece of armor, a rondel, which is basically like a chest plate, a tiny little Grogu-sized chest plate, implying that he will get more armor in the future, eventually probably wearing something close to a helmet if it's not an actual helmet. You also notice the symbol that's on it is the symbol of the Mudhorn because that's the symbol of his and Mando's family, so to speak. Grogu saved Mando's life from the Mudhorn using the Force in Season 1, and that's why Mando used the Mudhorn when he made his pauldron. Then Bo-Katan and Mando's group heads out, and when they make camp, Mando has to explain more of their customs, like this is how you eat, you kind of go off by yourself and you hide so that nobody can see you take your helmet off, but also Paz Vizsla, who previously seemed pretty antagonistic against her. They probably had some untold history that they haven't gotten into yet just because of what happened before the Great Purge. Especially his connection to Pre Vizsla and Bo-Katan's history with Pre Vizsla and all the fighting that went down there. But to his credit, he gives her the honor of staying by the fire and they all go find other places because she is leading their party. Also, the fact that she winds up saving his son, who we find out is his son, probably endears her to him in a much bigger way, like this is the way. Now he's probably cool with her, like you helped save my son, that means you're cool in my book. All that crazy stuff during the Clone Wars with the Darksaber, you going against my father or my uncle or whoever Pre Vizsla was to him, who was also played by Jon Favreau, it's all water under the bridge for you saving my blood. And also a reminder, every once in a while I have to remind people of this, both the characters, Paz Vizsla and Pre Vizsla, are voiced by Jon Favreau. So there's like a whole bunch of meta Easter eggs going on here because Bo-Katan, Katie Sackhoff, had a bunch of animated scenes with the Pre Vizsla character voiced by Jon Favreau. So it's like you're having a version of deja vu here, even though technically Paz Vizsla is a completely different character. When you see them move out too, if it wasn't clear, there are other female Mandalorians that are part of their small party here, like it's all not a bunch of dudes in Bo-Katan. Still a lot of theories who Paz Vizsla's wife is, or who he got it on with, where that child came from. This also explains all the looks that he was giving the foundling in episode 1, because it was his son taking the creed. These scenes of them scaling the mountain are also meant to show you some of the other skills they have, like these are all the things that they can require them using jetpacks. They don't always do things the exact same way. When they reach the nest, you notice there's a Mandalorian helmet. It's not the child Ragnar's helmet, meaning that it's killed other Mandalorians part of their covert for which they had referenced. They said that it always gets away, the beast always gets away, meaning that it had killed people before. He winds up jumping the gun, the beast returns and spits out the boy, and they go off and it turns into an aerial fight using their jetpacks. This scene of them just flying around in general, this whole attack scene, the save scene, is meant to show you how good their special effects have gotten. Like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are just having a little bit of fun. Like, see what we can do with modern special effects. See how much better they've gotten since season 1. With Mando saving the boy and the beast being eaten by the crocodile dinosaur creature that we saw in episode 1, whatever you want to call it, it's sort of like a crocolisk or whatever you want to call it. And when they share the "this is the way," that's Paz Vizsla basically telling them they're all cool in his book. Like any beef that we had between us before, it's all gone now. When they return victorious with the child, the armor claims Bo-Katan performed their highest honor of the creed, saving a foundling. The reason that's one of the greatest things they can do in their culture is because their lifestyle is so warlike, so martial, that their mortality rate for Mandalorians is super high, meaning that they're continually having to replenish their ranks, otherwise their culture would die out quickly, so protecting their brand new foundlings is super important. You also notice in this wide shot here where they're all greeting them, there are a bunch of very young Mandalorians, meaning they're continually bringing in new members. Bo-Katan also jokes that they have 3 more new foundlings for them to take care of, bringing the beast's children, like 3 new winged beasts, which they imply that they'll train and raise, eventually using them in battle. It'll be like the Armor's group doing the same thing that Boba Fett does with the baby Rancor, also setting up the idea that Bo-Katan will eventually do the same thing with the Mythosaur. Like a lot of these scenes here with them bringing back, training these giant beasts is meant to set up a big Mythosaur twist later in the series. I'm sure Grogu will be way more handy to them, way more helpful to the group just in general, being able to tame these 3 winged creatures too, like calm down, calm down. The armor replaces Bo-Katan's lost pauldron with the symbol of the Mythosaur, also setting up her arc, eventually riding the Mythosaur, when she admits to the armor about actually seeing it, and the armor doesn't believe her. So this is meant to be a bit of a callback to episode 1, where the armor said something similar to Mando. You want to go and redeem yourself? Oh, that's so great, but it's not possible. The armor also claimed that Mandalore was cursed, and Mando proved that wrong within minutes of stepping on the surface. So the whole idea, Bo-Katan using the symbol of the Mythosaur on her arm, I think it's just meant to set up the idea that she will also prove the armor wrong by showing her the Mythosaur, like, see in front of your face, you can't say this was a vision, this actually exists. So the whole idea is that the armor doesn't hate Bo-Katan, Bo-Katan doesn't hate the armor, she isn't trying to take over their group or anything like that, like Bo-Katan doesn't have any nefarious ideas here. She's still kind of trying to find out where she fits into all this, trying to adopt their ways, but doesn't totally agree with everything yet. The whole idea is that she still has this completely different idea about what the Mandalorian should be doing in general. She wants to retake the planet and reclaim their heritage. The armor has a slightly different idea about what they should be doing. So even though they will eventually have differences of opinion, I think some of that will be laid to rest later when Bo-Katan eventually shows the armor the actual mythosaur. But the whole thing here is that the mythosaur is way, way bigger than the Rancor, way bigger than those small birds. So it'd be way harder for her to carry the mythosaur to this planet. It'd be way easier for the armor to just come back to Mandalore and see the mythosaur there. And Grogu would also be able to do the same thing, communicating with the mythosaur through the Force, getting it to chill out. So Grogu will also probably be critical to helping Bo-Katan prove the existence of the mythosaur to the armor. And that'll just be another step on Grogu's path to becoming a Mandalorian. Also really, really hoping we get to see Grogu, tiny little Grogu, riding a giant mythosaur. The other big thing here too is her keeping the symbol of the Night Owls on one of her pauldrons is meant to foreshadow her eventually winning back that group of Mandalorians that used to follow her. The Night Owls were that group that she used to control, but they left after the end of Season 2 when she returned without the Darksaber. Finding and taming that mythosaur will also probably be a big part of her winning over those Mandalorians too. Because the armor says the mythosaur belongs to all Mandalorians, and that's the whole idea, is that you have all these warring factions with different ideas about what they should be doing. Eventually it sounds like Bo-Katan and Mando Grogu also will help start to win them over and start to bring them all together. If you spotted any other Easter eggs or references during the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. My episode 5 trailer video will post next, and my full episode 5 video will post next week after they release it. The big thing that they haven't done yet, like we're in the second half of the season now, is we haven't gotten an Ahsoka cameo scene yet, and Dave Filoni, I believed, helped write episode 5 amongst other episodes, so pretty soon we will probably see Ahsoka come back. Because I believe they will use some of the episodes or some part of the series to set up the Ahsoka series, which will take place around the same time period, but that won't premiere till later this year. They also have to continue this whole Grogu cloning plot, Dr. Pershing, what's going on with Elia Kane, freeing Moff Gideon, so the whole Empire side of things and what's going on with Grand Admiral Thrawn, like those mystery TIE interceptors, the TIE bombers that probably didn't belong to Moff Gideon. There's 4 more episodes, so they're not going to explain everything in episode 5, like they'll just continually tease things out episode by episode. But it does feel like we'll probably follow up at least a little bit with that Imperial storyline in episode 5 at some point. You can also let me know in the comments too, what do you think the next piece of armor Grogu is going to get will be? Do you think it'll actually just go straight to the helmet, like he'll say the creed and boom, he'll wear the helmet? Or will he get some other piece of armor? For the most part right now, I think his body is a little too tiny to wear as much armor as a normal Mandalorian would wear, even if it were tiny sized. Like physically, he would just have to get a little bit bigger before you could put different parts of armor on him. But everyone click here for that episode 5 video. I'll update the link as soon as I post that. And click here to learn about Grogu's lightsaber, because eventually he will probably wind up constructing his own lightsaber. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and this is the way.